My name is Anika. I am 28 years old. For many years, I worked at Microsoft. When I first joined, I was very proud. It was one of the biggest companies in the world, and I believed my future would be bright there. At the beginning, everything looked good. The office was modern, the teams were big, and I had many talented colleagues. I worked hard every day. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to grow. But slowly, I began to feel something was wrong. I wanted to take more responsibility. I had ideas about projects. I wanted to try new things. But my managers did not listen. They said, "Not now, maybe later." Every time I gave a suggestion, they delayed it. Every time I asked for growth, they ignored me. At first, I stayed quiet. I thought maybe I must wait. Maybe one day they would trust me more. But months passed. Then years passed. And nothing changed. I saw other people moving up. I saw some colleagues get new positions. But I stayed in the same place. It hurt me. I worked so many hours, I gave all my energy, but I was not growing. One day I sat with my manager. I asked again about promotion. I explained that I wanted more challenges. I wanted to lead a team. But he looked at me and said, "Anika, you are good at your work, but maybe leadership is not for you yet. Maybe you need more time." I felt small in that moment. I felt he did not believe in me. I felt he did not even see my efforts. I smiled outside, but inside I was broken. I went home that day with heavy steps. I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked, "How long will you wait? How long will you let others stop you?" From that day, I decided to change. I decided to leave. It was not easy. Leaving a big company like Microsoft is never easy. Many people said, "Stay. You are safe here. Why risk everything?" But I knew I had to choose myself. I knew I had to find a place where I could grow. I wanted to be somewhere that valued my ideas. So I left Microsoft. At first I felt free, but then fear came. I was jobless. I had to think about my future. I asked myself, where do I really want to work? And one name came to my heart, Google. I always admired Google. I admired the way they solved problems. I admired how they used creativity. I admired how they listened to people. I read many articles about their workplace. People said Google respected new ideas. People said Google gave space for growth. I wanted that. I wanted to be part of it. So I began to prepare. Every morning, I woke up early. I read about the company. I studied their projects. I practiced questions and answers. I worked on my resume. I wrote down every skill I had. I wrote about my experience at Microsoft. I wanted to show that even though I left, I learned a lot there. At night, I stood in front of the mirror. I practiced speaking. I said, "Why do you want to work at Google?" Then I answered as if I was in the interview. Because I believe in growth. Because I believe in innovation. Because I want to give my best to a company that gives space for ideas. Sometimes I felt nervous. What if they reject me? What if I am not good enough? But then I remembered why I left Microsoft. I left because I believed I deserved more. and now I had to fight for it. The day came when I got an email. It was from Google. They said, "We reviewed your application. We would like to invite you for an interview." My hands shook when I read it. Tears came to my eyes. It was real. I got a chance. I told my parents and they were so proud. They said, "Anika, you worked hard for this. Now go and show them who you are." The night before the interview, I could not sleep. I lay in bed with my eyes open. I thought about every question they might ask. I thought about how I would sit, how I would smile, how I would answer. I whispered to myself, "This is your moment. Do not be afraid. You are ready." The morning came. I wore my best clothes, a simple white shirt, a black jacket, and small earrings. I wanted to look professional, but also confident. I took a taxi to the Google office. The building was tall and modern. When I entered, my heart skipped a beat. Atmosphere was different. It was bright. It was open. People were smiling, but also working hard. I felt a strong energy there. I thought, this is the place. This is where I want to be. At the reception, they gave me a visitor card. They told me to wait for the panel. As I sat there, I looked around at the posters on the wall. They showed projects about AI, about health, about education. It inspired me. After a few minutes, a woman came and said, "Anika, please follow me." My heart beat faster. This was it. She led me to a large room. There was a panel of people. 3 women. 2 men. They smiled politely. They looked serious but kind. One of them said, "Welcome, Anika. We are glad you are here." I sat down. I held my hands tightly in my lap. I told myself, breathe. Just breathe. And then the interview began. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The panel looked at me with calm eyes. Their faces were serious, but also kind. I could feel the air in the room. It was not heavy, but it was powerful. These people were leaders. They were experienced. I told myself to stay strong. One of the women on the panel smiled. First, she said, "Anika, please tell us about yourself." I took a deep breath. My voice was soft at first, but it grew stronger as I spoke. "My name is Anika. I worked for Microsoft for several years. I was part of big projects, worked on software, on teams, and on growth plans, but after some time I wanted more. I wanted to take responsibility. But I did not get that chance. So I decided to step out and find a place where my ideas could grow. As I finished, I felt my heart beating fast. I looked at their faces. They were listening carefully. They were not writing much, but they were watching me closely. The second panel member, a man in a gray suit, leaned forward. "Why Google?" he asked. I looked at him. This was the question I had practiced so many times. "Because I believe in innovation," I said. "Because Google is not only about technology, it is about changing lives." I read about projects in health, in education, in environment. Google does not just build products, It builds the future, and I want to be part of that future. I felt my hands shaking a little under the table, but I kept smiling. The panel nodded slowly. The third person, another woman, spoke. Next. Her voice was firm. At Microsoft, what was your biggest challenge? My mind went back to those difficult days. I remembered meetings where my ideas were ignored. I remembered nights when I worked late, but felt unseen. My biggest challenge was not the work itself, I said softly. It was the feeling that my voice was not heard. I gave suggestions. I worked hard, but the decisions were not open for discussion. I felt limited. I wanted to grow, but there was a wall, and that wall did not move. That is why I decided to leave, because I believe growth is as important as stability. The room was quiet for a moment. I thought maybe I said too much, but then one of the panel members, an older man with silver hair, spoke gently. It takes courage to leave a big company. Many people stay, even when they are not happy. You chose to walk away. That says something about you. His words gave me strength. For the first time in the room, I felt lighter. The questions continued. They asked about teamwork. They asked how I solved conflicts. They asked what kind of leader I wanted to be. Each time I tried to answer honestly. I said, I believe a leader must listen. I said, when there is conflict, I look for solutions that are fair. I said, leadership is not about power. It is about responsibility. Sometimes my voice shook. Sometimes I paused to think. But I never stopped. I wanted them to see me as I was a woman. Ready to work, ready to grow, and ready to lead. At one point, they gave me a problem to solve. Imagine a project is behind schedule. One of them said, your team is stressed. The client is unhappy. What will you do? I closed my eyes for a second. I pictured the scene. Then I spoke slowly. First, I will calm the team. Stress only makes things worse. Then I will check the reasons for delay. If it is because of resources, I will ask for help. If it is because of mistakes, I will take responsibility. And then I will sit with the client. I will explain the plan clearly. I will not hide the truth. I will promise a solution, and I will keep it. When I finished, I looked at their faces. The woman in the center wrote something down. Another smiled slightly. I felt a small wave of relief. The interview went on for more than an hour, but I did not feel the time. I was nervous, but I was also excited. Every question made me think. Every question made me speak with my heart. I also noticed something about the panel. They were not just testing me, they were also showing me the culture of Google. They listened. They gave me time. They respected my words. I felt something I never felt at Microsoft. My voice mattered here. Near the end, one of them asked, Anika, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I smiled. I had thought about this many times. I see myself leading a strong team. I see myself making decisions that matter. I see myself not just working on projects but changing something important in the world, even if it is small. And I see myself here at Google still. Learning. Still growing. The room was silent again, but this silence was different. It was not heavy. It was warm. Finally, the woman in the center closed her folder. She said, "Thank you, Anika. We will contact you soon with our decision." Her words were polite, simple, and professional. But my heart sank a little. Soon. That meant waiting. I stood up, I smiled. I said, "Thank you for this opportunity." As I left the room, my legs felt weak. I walked down the bright hallway. The receptionist smiled at me. I gave her a small smile back, but inside my emotions were a storm. Outside the Google office, the air was fresh. The sun was shining. People were walking, cars were moving. But for me, the world felt quiet. I stood there for a moment. I looked up at the building. It looked strong, tall, and full of life. I whispered to myself, "I hope this becomes my place." I took a taxi back home. The whole ride, I replayed the interview. In my head, did I answer well? Did I speak too much about Microsoft? Did they like me? Or did I fail? My thoughts went round and round. When I reached home, my mother opened the door. She saw my face. "How was it?" she asked softly. I hugged her. "It was good," I said. "It was very professional." They asked many questions. I tried my best. She held my hand. "That is enough, Anna. You gave your best. Now the rest is not in your hands." That night I sat on my bed. My laptop was open, but I could not work. My phone was beside me. Every time it rang, my heart jumped. But it was never Google. It was only friends asking, "How did it go?" I smiled at their messages, but inside I was waiting. Waiting for that one email. Waiting for that one call. Waiting for the answer. That could change my life. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My heart was already restless. The interview was over, but the wait had just begun. I knew it could take days, maybe even weeks, for Google to send me the final result. Still, my eyes kept going to my phone. Every few minutes, I checked my email again and again, as if refreshing the screen could bring me the answer faster. I tried to distract myself. I made tea. I watered the plants on the balcony. I opened a book, but my eyes would not stay on the pages. My mind was somewhere else. Every sound of a message made me jump. Sometimes it was only a shopping offer. Sometimes it was a news alert. Not Google. Not yet. I walked around the house with a heavy heart. My mother came into the room. She saw me, packing from the table to the window. "Anika," she said softly, "you will make yourself sick. Sit down. Breathe. The letter will come when it is time." I sat down beside her. She gave me a cup of tea. The warmth of the cup calmed me a little. But inside the storm did not stop. I kept asking myself, did I answer well? Did I speak too much about leaving Microsoft? Did they think I was strong, or did they think I was impatient? The hours moved slowly that day. Morning turned to afternoon, afternoon to evening. I ate lunch without tasting it. I stared at my laptop screen without seeing anything. I tried to watch a movie, but after 5 minutes I paused it. I could not focus. All I could do was wait. At night, I lay in bed with my phone. My hand, the screen light touched my face in the dark room. I opened my email again. Nothing new. I sighed and put the phone down, but then I picked it up again after a few minutes. My heart was not ready to rest. The next day was the same. And the day after that. The waiting was not easy. It was like standing at a train station, not knowing when the train would come, but being afraid to move even for 1 second in case you missed it. Sometimes I tried to imagine the two possible futures. One future where the letter said yes. I saw myself walking into the Google office as an employee, not as a visitor. I saw myself leading a team, giving ideas, making decisions. I saw myself smiling with pride. And then the other future came to my mind. The letter said, no. I saw myself sitting in the same room, with tears in my eyes. I saw myself questioning everything. Maybe I was not good enough. Maybe leaving Microsoft was a mistake. Both futures lived in my head at the same time. And that was the hardest part. The waiting was like a test of patience, of hope, of faith in myself. One evening, my father came into my room. He sat on the chair near my desk. He looked at me for a long moment and then said, "Do you know something, Anika? Life is not always about one letter. If Google says yes, good. If they say no, still good. Because you already proved something important. You proved that you had the courage to leave a place where you were not happy. You proved you are ready to fight for yourself." His words touched my heart. I held them close that night as I tried to sleep. Still my hands searched for the phone. Again and again. Days passed. Every morning I woke up with hope. Every night I went to bed with the same question. Will tomorrow bring the letter? And then, one afternoon, as the rain tapped gently on the windows, I heard the sound of a new message. My heart jumped so hard I almost dropped the phone. I opened my inbox. There it was, a message from Google. For a moment, I did not breathe. My hand shook as I touched the screen. My eyes stared at the subject line. Your interview result. The world became quiet. Even the rain outside felt silent. I held the phone close to me, but I did not open it. I closed my eyes. I told myself, this is the answer you waited for. This is the answer that could change your life. But still, I did not open it, not yet. I wanted to hold on to this moment for a little longer, the moment before knowing, when both futures were still possible. Yes or no. Hope or heartbreak. Growth or waiting again. I placed the phone on the table and walked to the window. The rain was falling softly. People were running with umbrellas. The street looked gray, but in my heart, there was color. Because even in the silence, I felt alive. I thought about my journey, about the first day I joined Microsoft, full of hope, about the long nights of hard work, the meetings where I was quiet, the moments when I wanted to speak but held back. I thought about the courage it took to say goodbye to a safe job, about the risk I took to stand up for myself, about the day I walked into the tall Google office, my heart racing but my spirit strong. And I realized something important. The answer in the letter was not the only thing that mattered. What mattered was the path I chose. What mattered was that I did not let fear control me. I turned back to the table. The phone screen was still lit, waiting for me. My heart still raced. The letter was there, and one day I would open it, but in that moment I smiled. Because I understood. Microsoft is a good company. It gave me skills. It gave me experience. And I respect it for that, but my disagreements there about career, progress, about decisions, about growth, led me to leave. And leaving brought me here to this moment, to this letter. I whispered to myself, no matter what is inside, this was worth it. I picked up the phone again. The message was still unopened. My fingers touched the screen gently. My eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of strength. And then with a deep breath, I opened the letter. What do you think was inside the letter? Would Google say yes or no? Sometimes in life, the answer is not the point, it is the courage to ask the question. If you enjoyed my journey, please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch your heart, challenge your mind, and help you learn English in a simple, emotional way. Your support means everything too.